This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, let's proceed with B, the invocation. Dear Lord, bless us as we gather here today to conduct business that will affect the citizens of the Rio Grande Valley. Give us the clarity of mind to act in their best interest, not ours. We ask that you bless our speakers and that you would bless our time together today. May we grasp those things that you want us to understand, and may our actions and our attitudes please you this day. We pray these things in your almighty name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Please face the flag. Pledge allegiance of the flag.
Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May be seated. So we go to item number 2, consideration and action to approve minutes of September 29th of 2021.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carried. Line item number 3 is public comments and or report from legislative delegations. And I think we have someone with public comments. Mr. Salomon Torres, Director of Event Initiatives.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I have two props today. One is this poster and the other one is my colleague, Steve Taylor. But we both work within that 3-minute time span, so I'll be very quick. Good afternoon. My name's Steve Taylor. I'm the publisher and editor of the Rio Grande Guardian. Some of you may have been readers of ours over the years. We take pride in reporting on the Rio Grande Valley, progress the valley's making, its leadership and its potential. Joining me today is my colleague, Mr. Salomon Torres, who's our Director of Event Initiatives. The Guardian has set out to host events that are both educational and relevant to our region. The History Conference that Mr. Torres will now invite you to is an example of the sort of programs we plan to bring to the Valley in 2022. I'm pleased to lead the Guardian in this new initiative. By focusing on history, we believe it has the potential to promote economic development and tourism in Valley communities, large and small. The event is a full-day conference on December 9 at the Port Isabel Event and Cultural Center. It's going to commemorate the 175th anniversary of the US-Mexico War of 1846-1848. This war was fought between two relatively young countries. They did not see eye to eye, as you know, on who should own Texas, California, and the Southwest. Yeah, the US offered to sell the land to Mexico, but that was never really a real consideration by Mexico, hence the war. After landing in Corpus Christi, the US troops set up base in Port Isabel. Then subsequent battles happened in the Brownsville area, which was then disputed land. The United States won the war, and Mexico was forced to cede half of its territory. Our conference will provide US and Mexican perspectives. Tours of the battlefields will happen in the afternoon. We're inviting all Valley and South Texas museums to set up exhibits to attract visitors to your communities. We want the public to get excited about history and our heritage sites here in the Valley. We want youth to read about the war, and we encourage your museums to attend and exhibit why they should come to your communities to promote their museums. Our population needs to know more about our cultural assets here in the Valley. It's about education, but it's about economic development at its core if we do it the right way. Even the Washington Post gets it. They called yesterday afternoon asking about the conference. So with that, I'd like to invite all of you to connect with the Rio Grande Guardian to see how we can get some of your entities, nonprofits, others that are interested in history and education to come visit us and attend the conference on December 9th. So with that, thank you.
Thank you for the invite, Mr. Torres.
Judge Guerra,
Yes.
this is Commissioner Garza. I was having a hard time with my audio, so I had to disconnect and connect, but I am present, okay?
Okay, noted. Okay, and then we have Mr. Ron Whitlock, Director, and the organization is the Shepherd Group.
Chairman Judge Guerra, thank you so much. More impressed with his presentation than you will be with mine. Just coincidentally, I did mention it yesterday to a gentleman I was with for 5 public minutes and 8 minutes which were private. And that is Ken Salazar. He's our new U.S. ambassador to the United States. I was honored to be there with him in Brownsville, and we talked exactly about this because in 1848, all of Brownsville was Mexico. And therefore, that's why I've been working for over a year back unsuccessfully with the Trump White House to let me open the bridge to non-essential people so they could come over from Matamoros, get a COVID shot and go back, and then come another 30 days or so later and chop again and get another COVID shot in downtown Brownsville. And that was our project. We're getting some leverage now and some momentum from the Biden White House, and we're very excited about that. I'm very pleased to be speaking to you today. I do this almost monthly because Ken Jones would come and collar me and say, when you were in the old place over in the old Valley Metro, and say, you need to go and let everybody know what's going on. And I'd say, why? Well, this is important. So Ken would get me here. The only guy who can get me here today is our same gentleman who set up the previous speaker, and that's Steve Taylor. Now, I was 8 minutes with Ken Salazar, former U.S. Senator, now the U.S. Ambassador to Mexico, brand new, nuevo, we say here in the Valley. The 8 minutes were at the behest of Alonzo Cantu, meeting him privately because he had a word for Ken Salazar. I will not tell you because I cannot tell you what that discussion entailed. Now, who do you think spent possibly more time in the Lincoln White House, the Lincoln bedroom in the White House, than Alonzo Cantu? That's what I'm asking you to think about, because at the end of what I'm going to tell you, you'll know the name of that person and you can figure it out yourself. There is one person from the Valley who's undoubtedly spent more nights in the Lincoln bedroom of the White House than Alonzo Cantu. Well, think about who that might be. Anybody have an idea? Write it down because I'll have the answer at the end of my discussion. I'll give you the transcript. But first of all, let me say that about a year ago, we started advocating again to open up the bridge and so forth, and get that all done and so forth. I also have my hats off today, and I'd like to give a shout out to Star in Zapata County, because there, Sam Vale, you all know who he is. He's been at this podium before. Rose Benavides, Judge Eloy Veta, and the county judge from Zapata County, Joe Rathmel, along with Rio Grande City Mayor Joel Virial. They have now joined forces with the same identical project, trying to have a pilot project up in Star, up in Zapata, Rio Grande City, and Roma, and let folks from the other side, non-essential, come over and get COVID shots. Those are 2 small rural ports of entry. One in Brownsville, obviously, is urban. This is a real adequate way to do a pilot project, rural, urban. And that's what we're talking about doing. So we've been encouraged, obviously, along the way by not only Congressman Cuellar, but Congressman Vicente Gonzalez. He's going to help provide us with shots for the Brownsville opening on this pilot project. Now, this is very important for the Valley economy in that the whole region, with all land municipalities and counties in South Texas, that have ports of entry, shall get behind this project, we would hope, ojalá, to prove up that these 3 points of entry, Rio Grande City, Roma, and Brownsville, can make it work. We can bring them over, we can give them shots, we can help get the business going quickly for obviously Thanksgiving, Christmas, and those times. Hopefully the rest of the ports of entry all the way to California can make that happen. Purpose of my visit is to make sure I'm asking and requesting that the Lower Rio Grande Valley Development Council and Rio Grande Valley Development Council in particular economically look to support this initiative currently, but then be ready when we get ready, when it is fully approved and approved it up and so forth, to take on this project and make it regional. After we do our deal in Brownsville, Sam and Rose and the others do their deal in Rio Grande City and Roma, we hope for this organization to be ready to take it, package it all up, and run down the field with it. Now, to get to my visit with the new U.S. ambassador to Mexico from the Biden White House, I'll just read the transcript. I'll make it quick. This is him. Ron, let me say we need to move forward with these kinds of programs. They are understanding the pandemic and what we're trying to do with vaccinations. There's no doubt that President Biden's heart and mind, he carries with his heart the fact that 700,000 U.S. citizens have died from the pandemic. That's a number that should not escape anybody's mind and heart. He talks about the fact that they've already helped Mexico with 10 million vaccines, and he wants to do more to try to make this happen. So he says, you mentioned Federico Pena. This is the quote again from my guest at a round table there in Brownsville. That is the new U.S. ambassador in Mexico. You mentioned Federico Pena. For all you younger reporters, Federico Pena is the son of Brownsville and hasn't forgotten where he came from. And as Ron knows, because he knows him, he became the mayor of Denver. With his vision, imagination, he built a great city, one of the best in the world, best in the United States, in large part because of his vision and what he learned from his roots. Brownsville, here in the Rio Grande Valley. Think about that, Judge. Pretty good, huh? So he went on to be not only a great mayor, he went on to be Secretary of Transportation, later Secretary of the Energy, served in the White House twice. Pretty good, huh? And he continues to be a friend of mine. And he continues to work and being very worried about the whole happening about the Rio Grande Valley and the border by migration and immigration. And I'm sure that Federico want me to say hello, and that's why I'm doing this, because he wanted me to give a shout out to Federico Pena, to everybody in this room today, Rio Grande Valley, from Federico Pena in Denver, Colorado. Thank you, Ron. And that's our new ambassador from the Biden White House to Mexico City. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Who spent the time at the Lincoln? You mentioned that
The answer to your question.
the answer to,
Federico Pena undoubtedly
that-
has stayed
that-
in the Lincoln bedroom,
Okay.
in my opinion, more than Alonzo can too.
thank you.
But the only person in the valley who spent more time in the Lincoln bedroom in the White House than Alonzo.
Thank you. And thank you for your efforts. So with that, we go to line item number 4, administration. Manuel Cruz.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the board. Thank you so much for taking this opportunity. The LRGVDC Valley Metro proudly recognizes Hidalgo County Precinct 4 Commissioner Eli Torres for her exceptional leadership and partnership throughout the development of the San Carlos Bus Shelter project. As you know, about 2 years ago, maybe longer, she approached our staff, our transportation department, to request to see what we could do to help out the community of San Carlos. Later in 2021, January 14, 2021, we had a construction kickoff meeting, and recently, I think you want to say in April or May, we actually did July, I'm sorry, we did the ribbon cutting. So the San Carlos Bus Shelter will provide passengers with adequate protection from the elements. In addition, the bus shelter promotes public transportation opportunities to residents in the area. Hidalgo County Precinct 4, in conjunction with LRGVDC, Valley Metro, UTRGV, now provide services to residents in the unincorporated areas of San Carlos by way of Route 12. The route will provide west side service to Hidalgo County Courthouse, downtown Edinburgh, and UTRGV, just to name a few. East side service will be provided to the cities of Elsa, La Villa, plus the STC Mid-Valley campus. So at this time, I want to thank Commissioner Eli Torres from Precinct 4 for her continued support as a champion to our efforts and leading the way with our transportation services to the community. It's a great pleasure to present a small token, a very small token of our appreciation. We did, acquire a plaque for you today to present here to you today. So if you could please come up and accept.
Oh my, I wasn't expecting this. I was coming to thank everyone and share the good news of our very first and not the last unincorporated bus shelter in the unincorporated areas of the precinct, and was not expecting this. But I can tell you right now that this wouldn't be possible without the team that exists at Precinct 4 and without the partnerships of the LRGVDC and without the partnerships of UTRGV, who was, in conversation said, hey, we could really use, some sort of a stop here to help our residents come to not only to the AHEC clinic, but also access other resources throughout the county. And so that is all it took, a little spark. And that's the type of team that I have at Precinct 4. Somebody sparks something and we get it done. And I want to thank my team that's here. Oh my gosh, no wonder everybody was here. I was wondering why are they all coming, but I was like, okay, they want to get more involved, but that's fine. Again, this is a great tool for our residents to access not only the AHEC clinic, which is where that spark was born, but also other resources throughout the county, from shops to healthcare to university, the school, colleges, and so forth. And we're just very, very excited that we're the first in the precinct. And like I said, hope not to be the last. And I challenge everyone out there that has a hand in the rural areas to also partner with our LRGVDC and get those bus shelters out there, not only to provide that transportation, but also, the shelter is a safe place to be at when you're needing to take that bus and from the, protection from the elements and all that good stuff. So, oh my gosh. So again, thank you all. And I invite y'all to ride bus Route 12 and experience it for yourself. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes.
Thank you.
Manny?
Okay, so we go to, let's see.
Judge,
B.
Judge,
Yes.
if I may, real quickly, this is Veronica Gonzalez. I just wanted to say thank you again to Commissioner Torres, because we went to her with an idea, and she knew how important it is to get people access to health care, and she ran with it. And her office was amazing to work with. That bus shelter, it makes a huge difference for folks when they have a place that they can go and the bus can drop them off right in front of the clinic and pick them up and prevent them from getting all wet and in bad weather. And so we just really want to thank her for that. So thanks again.
Thank you. Consideration and action to adopt annual investment policy and accept quarterly investment report.
Good afternoon. The annual investment policy report was provided for your review. If there are no questions, we're recommending readoption of the public investment policy.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And all opposed, same sign. Motion carries. C, consideration and action to amend LRGVDC procurement policy. Manuel Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. President. For this item is to consider consideration and action to amend LRGVDC procurement policy. As you all are aware, as required from time to time, LRGVDC updates policies to adhere with the most up-to-date state and federal regulations and requirements. The proposed amendments will include the addition of the Code of Federal Regulations,
We lost Mr. Cruz.
Can't hear. Judge Guerra, is Manny there? Because we can't hear him.
Can't hear anything here, Randall either.
I think it was dropped. He's probably trying to get back on.
moment, folks. We lost connectivity, so it'll take us a few moments to be back on. And also, since we're gonna restart, please make sure that the cameras are on for board members. It's required.
Okay, so we're good.
I'm gonna do a mic check. Crystal, mic check. Does it work?
Yes,
We
it's
can hear
working.
you.
I can hear you, Manuel. I don't know about the rest.
Thank you.
Okay, so we had a motion and a second. And all in favor signify by saying aye.
I think we need to,
Aye.
Judge, I think that motion needs to be remade. It was not available audibly to everyone, and go through the process again.
Okay,
They were-
can you repeat who made the first motions and the second?
Mr. Ron Mills motion to approve the amendment to the LRGVDC procurement policy as presented, and Commissioner Marco Villegas seconded.
Okay, so then we'll take another count. So all in favor signify, any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, aye. Motion carries. Line item D, consideration and action to renew copiers lease and upgrade equipment.
Mr. President, members of the board, this is an action item. The leases of our equipment are up for renewal for our copiers and equipment that are used throughout the LRGVDC campus and satellite offices. And we are currently on a month-to-month basis. All equipment has exceeded its useful life. We've had the current equipment for over 10 years. And so we are going to renew the agreement as well as upgrade our equipment to new, better, efficient equipment. The proposed lease agreement is for $3,560 per month for 60 months. Currently, we're paying $4,100 for 11 units. We would reduce the amount of units to 10. Staff recommends approval.
I move to approve, Judge. This is Yogi Garcia.
Y'all don't need the 11?
No.
And I make a motion.
I have a motion to approve and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Line item E, introduction to State Broadband Development Office. Mr. Gregory Conte.
Mr. President, first I just want to make sure Mr. Gregory Conti is on. Can you hear me, Greg?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Okay,
Great.
so before I introduce Mr. Conti, just wanted to brief the board on current status. As you know, during the 87th regular session, the Texas legislature, Governor Abbott, and the legislature adopted the council's recommendation into House Bill 5. The bill establishes for the first time, the state broadband office in the comptroller and public accountants requires the development of statewide broadband plans within 12 months of the bill signing, creates a broadband program in the comptroller's office, and perhaps most importantly, requires detailed mapping of areas in Texas unserved by broadband access. I had the opportunity to invite Mr. Gregory Conti. He is the new director for Texas Broadband Development Office, who agreed to join us here today. At this time, Mr. Conti, I'll turn the floor over to you for your presentation, sir. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you so much. Again, Greg Conti. I'm going to put my contact information here in the chat box before I get off. But just want to introduce myself, introduce this new office, the Broadband Development Office here in the Comptroller's Office, created by HB 5. We're tasked with closing the digital divide in Texas. Over 300,000 households in Texas don't have access to what is now the definition of broadband, which is 25/3. That speed alone is pretty outdated and is likely to change. It's likely to be updated by the FCC. They're saying probably within the next year. It's probably will be updated to about 100 over 20, which is 100 download, 20 upload. If you change that definition right now, 1.3 million households in Texas do not have access to broadband. There are other reasons why households won't have broadband, simply because the affordability issue. Sometimes, packages are just too expensive for households to purchase. There's other reasons as well as devices. Households just won't have devices. Devices can be expensive. And then digital literacy, the component of just not understanding how to use the internet to the best of its ability, rejecting computers, other things like that, and there's other reasons. And so this new office is looking to tackle these issues, particularly the first one with the infrastructure. We just received $500.5 million from the Coronavirus Capital Projects Fund from U.S. Treasury. We do need to request that money from the Treasury. When we request that, we need to build in a grant plan on how we're going to spend that money. A large portion of that money will probably be put within a grant program here within the Comptroller's Office that entities can competitively compete for and apply for based upon need. When I was introduced, we talked about a map. We're also developing a map within the Comptroller's Office. That map doesn't need to be completed until January of 2023. The FCC has a map right now based upon need, and need is what homes have, or what areas right now. The FCC map is what areas have broadband. Though that map and that data collection process on the FCC's part is flawed. It'll say a designated area has service if only one home in that designated area has service. So that could be very misleading. So the new map that we're developing is going to have an address level information. Basically, can each address be served by can can each address have broadband service delivered to it? And what are the providers within those areas as well? So again, going back to that federal funding that we had, we're going to develop a broadband program that will appropriate money or award money to communities and local governments who, as well as providers, who can demonstrate a need on that local level that funding can spur investment within that community itself. One of the biggest issues when it comes to investment, especially in rural areas, is it's a math problem, right? It's that return on investment, that ROI. And essentially that's what this program will do. We'll incentivize providers to build that infrastructure to develop that ROI. In rural areas, if you have not enough people living in these areas, if the areas doesn't have enough density, the math just doesn't make sense for them to build out where subscriptions and people purchasing their products just won't pay for that capital investment. And so that's essentially where our office is going to be coming in. So things you're going to be seeing from us is a grant program using those federal funds. You're going to be seeing a statewide broadband plan, which we need to develop by June of next year. When we're doing that, we're thinking about right now how we plan on accomplishing that task. And we foresee possibly a listening tour utilizing 24 cogs, just because your infrastructure is so robust, that'll allow us to get a better idea of what the barriers and assets are in the state. And once we have a better idea of that, we can strategize on how we're going to spend state and federal money to address the issue of that digital divide, of why people are not connecting, whether it's access, adoption, devices, or just digital literacy. And then other things within that HB5 in the Broadband Development Office that we're responsible for, we'll have a board of advisors chaired by Comptroller Hager. And that board of advisors will provide guidance to this office. And we're also tasked with education and outreach, providing, just highlighting our programs as well as educating people on digital literacy components, how to use devices, things like that as well. So we'll be partnering up with different groups. Right now, we're talking with the state library and seeing on how maybe we can partner up with their digital literacy program and how we can utilize already state assets in place that perpetuate broadband usage and broadband acceptance into people's lives. Because we're talking about things like economic development, telehealth, education, and just a better quality of life for folks who are utilizing the internet in an effective way. And all those things are capable to people who do have affordable, reliable broadband. And essentially that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get that reliable broadband out to all components of Texas and make sure everybody has access so everyone can partake in the benefits of the internet. And so that's essentially where we are right now. Our office has been functional for about maybe 45, 50 days. So not too long. I am hiring staff right now, building up my office. I will be hiring 4 FTEs to assist me in getting these programs up and running. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. I'll put my information here in the chat box. If anybody has any questions for me, I'm happy to take those now as well.
Greg, I do have a couple of questions. One of them, other than the federal funding, did the state put any money into this state broadband development office and program?
As of yet, the only funding that we've received is the initial $5 million to stand the office up. So that's a $5 million for the biennium. So that $5 million is just for administrative issues, for contracting, developing the map, developing the plan, the FTEs I was talking about earlier, and then developing a website, developing a logo, and all of that. So right now there is no state funding. If you pay attention to the ledge, SB 8 in the 3rd special session was the one that created or appropriated that $500.5 million from the Capital Projects Fund. Some of the lawmakers are talking about, they're looking at this bipartisan infrastructure bill that's coming out of Washington. Again, who knows where that's going to go? Who knows what they're doing down there in Washington? But we'll see if that comes to us as it is now. Texas will get somewhere around. So what that bill does is it appropriates $45 billion to the states to do exactly this broadband build out. And based upon the allocation of the capital Projects Fund, Texas will most likely get somewhere between $2 and $4 billion just for that one initiative. And so state legislators are looking at that and saying, well, do we want to, appropriate state funding if we knew that much more federal funding is coming down the pipe? So that's kind of their thought process right now.
Do you think we'll see any type of grants for individuals within those areas that broadband will be extended to? Affordability for the computers and whatever others hard and software that people cannot afford to buy, so that they can be utilized whatever educational information is being sent out through internet.
Yeah, I mean, we are looking at the possibility of devices. There is a component that was helping schools called Operation Connectivity. They're in collaboration with Texas, with TEA, the governor's office in Dallas ISD, but they're operating around the state, servicing those 4.5 million students, about getting hotspots, tablets, laptops, all in students' hands just so they can be connected. I mean, it's obvious when I say this, but the coronavirus pandemic really exacerbated the need for these tools, and that's how they're trying to service that area. So this coronavirus capital projects fund that we've been appropriated does allow us to pursue connectivity issues when it comes to devices. So it's certainly something we're exploring. But with the idea of HB5 was to address the access component of that. So to build out that infrastructure for providers to bring service to households and businesses.
Well, thank you, Mr. Cantella. Is there any other questions? Thank you for the introduction of this state broadband development. I know we all have an interest on that, and I know you keep us updated as it unfolds.
Mr. President, just ends the presentation. Greg, thank you very much for taking the time to provide us that information. And us as the Council of Government, we stand ready to provide any assistance, whether collaboration or regional projects. We're stand ready to move forward, depending on the availability and qualifications.
Awesome. I appreciate that. And again, I'll put my contact information in the box. Please feel free to reach out to me whenever you need to talk.
Thank you. Line item F, presentation on Hidalgo County Community Service Agency and the rent relief program. Mr. Jaime Longoria.
Thank you so much, Chairman Guerra. My name is Jaime Longoria. I'm with the Hidalgo County Community Service Agency, and I come before the members of the Council of Governments full well knowing that the program I'm about to present, the information I'm about to present is Hidalgo County centric, okay? But if you will, indulge me for a little bit, because there are similar programs, not only with regards to rent relief that we're going to talk about specifically, but certainly in the bigger picture, the bigger context of the community service agency that I currently work with. I'll try to make those connections as much as I possibly can, and at the same time give you information that's specific to the Hidalgo County Rent Relief Program. I certainly appreciate Mr. Cruz inviting me to speak today and to present some really important information for folks who are in the business of helping folks that are struggling through the pandemic, that are emerging from the economic crisis that this caused for people around the world, around the country, and certainly right here in our own communities. I did bring a PowerPoint with me, so I'll ask that to be queued up. Is it? Okay, I'm sorry, I can't see it. Oh, there it is, okay. Looking at the wrong screen. So just basically, I think it was the other PowerPoint. I apologize. There was two PowerPoints. Yeah, it's the second PowerPoint. No, that's okay. I've got a paper version of the PowerPoint that I can speak from. So what I've done is I provided all of the members that are here present with a couple of little flyers, both English and Spanish. It's on our rent relief program. The other flyer is actually a little mailer postcard that we've sent out. So what is rent relief? Our program here in Hidalgo County is a result of funds that were received from the U.S. Treasury back in January of this past year. Hidalgo County received $26 million to assist families in paying their rent. Okay. Every community across the country, every county across the country received some version of these funds that came directly from the Treasury. People would affectionately call it ERAP, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program Fund. And the qualifications for that program are across the board. They're set out by the U.S. Treasury. In this particular program for Hidalgo County, obviously you've got to be a member of Hidalgo, be a resident of Hidalgo County. Now, what does that mean? We've interpreted that to mean that as long as you live here, we're not interested in any of the other interpretations of that. It's just you've got to have a homestead here in terms of, and I don't mean for tax purposes, but I mean you've got to have a rental property that you live in here. You've got to be economically impacted by COVID-19. Economically impacted now has come to be interpreted as people are buying disinfectant, people are buying masks, people have lost certainly wages, have lost their jobs. So we know that the economic impact has been tremendous across the country and right here in our community. You must qualify as low income. Low income for this particular program across the country is 80% of the area median income. And we'll get into that a little bit more specific in just a minute. You have to be, of course, in a rental situation. We've interpreted that to include people that may live in various situations. They may rent from their relative, and if they can prove that there's a rental situation there, then we've said that's okay to go. We know we have a large number of people who own their own trailer home or their little mobile home, but they're renting the property that they live in, that they live on underneath, and we've interpreted that to include that particular definition as well. And the last thing is they have to be at risk of losing their place of residence. Okay, and I'll be a little bit more specific about that in a little bit. So as we go forward, as I go forward on the PowerPoint, I wanted to also point out that in addition to rental assistance, okay, we can go all the way back, by the way, all the way back to April of 2020. Since the inception of the pandemic, we can pay arrears rental for families. What we're finding here in Hidalgo County is that most families that come to us are in arrears about 3 months on average. Okay, we've talked to an awful lot of landlords who have said that once the moratorium was lifted, then because of economic reasons, because of their own commitments to banks and to other kinds of, they need their income, they've taken steps to have families evicted. Okay, we try really hard at Hidalgo County Community Service Agency to intervene with funds granted to us through this program to try to assist families and prevent that eviction. Nonetheless, we do see a number of families coming to us and saying it's just a little bit too late. We can also assist with utility costs. Here's certainly where this Council of Governments can be of great assistance to us, because in addition to electricity, we have families that are coming to us with past due water bills, past due garbage collection bills. Those are bills that we can pick up under this utility assistance component, and we're able to go as far back as April of 2020 as well. Obviously, many of the municipalities are not carrying that kind of debt, or they wouldn't be in the business very long, right? But we do see families that are coming to us with 2 and 3 months in arrears as well for utilities, and we're able to pick up those costs under this particular program. How can the municipalities be of service? And that's certainly working with us through our memorandums of understanding and helping us to work with families on an individual basis as we kind of navigate through this system and get the money to the municipalities for these arrearages. Now, one of the things that I wanted to share information on with regards to our program, and this program, this information is really specific to Hidalgo County, but I would venture to say that many of the other programs throughout the state and throughout the country have similar kinds of criteria and have interpreted the guidance from the Treasury Office a little different. Obviously, people have to live in Hidalgo County. They have to be below 80% of AMI, as I mentioned previously. A family of 4 in Hidalgo County that has income of less than $47,100 would qualify for this assistance. A family of 5, it would be $50,900. Okay, we're going to talk about how people can provide that information in just a second. They have to submit proof that they're behind on the rent, so they need a statement from their landlord, or they can do other things to prove to us that they're behind on their rent. and they have to be economically impacted by COVID-19. And we've spoken about that as well. What do families need to apply? What do they need to bring to us? What do they need to provide to us? A photo ID. What we've done in Hidalgo County to make things easier for families, recognizing that oftentimes some of these kinds of documents can be a burden, is we've interpreted that to include a driver's license, a matricula consular, an ID provided by organizations such as Valley Interfaith. Sometimes parishes would provide a photo ID for families. So really, we've tried to make it as easy as we can with regards to that requirement. Families would need to also provide an attestation form. They can provide an attestation form for a lease agreement. Recognizing again that many families, when they go to rent a piece of property, they may be renting from a family member, a neighbor, a compadre, padrino, somebody. So what they do is they have an informal agreement, and they don't execute a formal contract. So what we've done in Hidalgo County is we've said, you know, that's okay with us. You can fill out an attestation form and sign it and present that as evidence that there is a rental agreement. People would need to provide a past due rent statement. Again, we understand that in some cases, landlords are not willing to provide that past due rent statement for whatever reason, okay? So we've, again, gone back to the tenants and said, as long as you can provide a signed attestation telling us that you're behind on the rent, we'll accept that. Okay. Utility bills, obvious, we would need a copy of the utility bills from the provider, and we would need landlord's information. Okay. In some cases, we run into situations where landlords, again, are not willing to provide information. They're not willing to participate, because keep in mind, we do everything we can to pay the landlord directly. So the money goes right to the landlord. We do everything we can to do that. If the landlord says we don't want to participate, then what we do is we have the option where we can do what we call tenant pay direct, where we send the money directly to the tenant. The tenant signs and says they declare that they are within 15 days going to the landlord with that rental payment. There is a protocol, so we would contact the landlord 3 times. We try it through text, we try it through email, we try it through telephone. If we don't receive a response, then that tenant would be paid directly. So we've tried to make it as easy, and we've pushed, in Hidalgo County, we've pushed the program rules to the limit to try to assist families in getting their rent paid and to clear these back due rents. We received $25 million. To date, if I paid everything that's in our pot, everything that's in our queue to pay, we would wind up spending about $5.8 million. That's far short of the numbers that we had anticipated that we would be paying at this point. That's why I'm here today, is to enlist the help really of everyone around the table, all of the entities that are represented here in Hidalgo County, to help us to get the word out, number one, and to help us to provide the tools necessary for families to apply. The previous speaker talked about the digital divide in our area, and here I'm speaking valley-wide. Okay, as the pandemic hit, Willacy County, Cameron County, Starr County, Hidalgo County residents struggled to access vital services because of the lack of infrastructure in their home, and infrastructure that we had for families to get on the internet. At our very own agency, we provided laptops, we provided hotspots to families to be able to navigate this new normal for us. So we recognize that that is a big issue in Hidalgo County in helping us to move these $25 million. And we're asking the cities to come together and work with us to help us have families be able to go to their local communities. It could be libraries, it could be City Hall, it could be other places within the community to access the computers for families to apply for this kind of assistance. We're hoping that's the case. We're hoping that really that's what's keeping families from applying for this vital service. I was telling someone the other day, back when I was in school, my minor was economics. So I look at this from just purely an economic standpoint. $25 million in our local economy. That's followed by ERAP 2, that is probably another $25 million that we need to move into the local economy, get in the hands of families who are struggling to pay the rent, get in the hands of landlords who are struggling to pay their notes at the bank. So really, I'm here as a plea for assistance for you all to contact our office. You're welcome to contact me. I'll distribute some business cards. You all are welcome to call me. I'd be glad to work with local communities and see how we can better cooperate to get this money moving. And secondly, the last thing is for families who are watching this, for people who are watching this, they can go to the hidalgocsa.org website, and the very first button that you land on, plain as day, is rent relief. Okay, that's obvious that we're doing everything we can to try to emphasize the importance of this. For families who struggle and say, you know what, we don't have any way of accessing the internet. There's just no way. We don't have the equipment. We don't have any way. Then we ask them to call, English or Spanish, 1-833-209-5023. Operators would answer, would give them another number where they can call, and someone on our end could actually navigate that system for them. Okay. We recognize these are barriers. We recognize these are different times, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we get this money out where it really needs to be, in the hands of people who are struggling. You know, I have the distinction in this county of fielding phone calls daily of people who have lost all of their savings, who have lost. I had a gentleman in FAR who called me crying and saying he was being evicted, and he lost his place to live, but he says, I had my shop that I was fixing cars, so I lost my livelihood as well. Okay. And so we're faced with very, very stark realities in many cases. And anything that we can do as a community to prevent that, I would ask you to work with us on that. So I thank you all for having me here today. I would certainly entertain any questions, but prior to that, I just want you all to know that I think I made available to you all two of the most valued premiums in the whole world right now, and that is, number one is the hand sanitizer, okay? So you've got that in front of you. And the second thing is probably even more valuable, and that's a little case to carry your immunization card, okay? So y'all have those, and we've got all kinds of those kinds of things to give out. So I'd entertain any questions or any comments from you all at this time. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Mr. Longoria, and I'll tell you that I know that the local governments are, you know, through committees and what have you efforts, are trying to see what the best way to be able to disperse these monies that are available, whether it's through the relief fund or any other. And I'll tell you, in Willacy County, I'll certainly have that committee reach out to you. Looks like you spent a lot of time and effort and got this precise. You were very detailed in your presentation. So no doubt that whatever you put together is obviously something that's going to help your residents, our residents. Thank you.
Absolutely. Chairman, we're actually a community action, a CAP agency, community action program. And as you well know, there's one that covers Willacy County, covers Cameron County, covers Starr County. So if there's folks around the table who need information on the CAP agency in your community, we'd be glad. Reach out to us. Our phone number is 956-383-6240, or you can certainly drop me an email. It's my name at co.hidalgo.tx.us. That's jaime.longoria@co.hidalgo.county.tx.us. Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you all so much.
Next, we go to line item number G, Executive Director Report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Really quickly, just wanted to, two items. Just first and foremost is introduction of new staff. This comes as a relief because these 5 staff that we hired are drivers. So as you know, we had a very shortage in drivers, just like any other, like the ISDs and other agencies. So a huge plus for us. So Carlos Cruz, Linda Flores, Natalia Reeves, Robert Gonzalez, Fred Gonzalez are under Valley Metro. And we do have, for your reference or for your knowledge, Ms. Maribel Contreras is now the Director of Regional Transportation. So any issues or projects or information that you might need, she would be the go-to person for that information. Second item would be the upcoming training for elected officials. Just really quickly, this is a highly important topic. We have two classes that we have scheduled. The first one would be disaster recovery for senior officials. It's just a 4-hour course. And the disaster recovery for senior officials course provides an overview of disaster recovery and will provide senior leaders with the information that will assist communities and businesses prepare for and recover from disasters. Those two, and the other training is Introduction to Disaster Recovery Public Assistance. That is a 12-hour course, a day and a half. And so the dates are there, and the location is going to be here at the LRGVDC main campus. We will send out the email, so it's highly recommended for elected officials. I know as disasters come about, you all are in the front lines with your first responders. So it's high importance that elected officials attend these courses, and that's all that I have. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions pertaining to that? Okay, so with that, we go to line item number 5, department reports, and we start with A, Community and Economic Development, Mr. Rick Carrera.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the board. I have no action items this month, just a few programmatic updates in the interest of time. The Valley Environmental Council will be providing a membership summit and membership drive here on November 19th, 2021. The Regional Water Resources Advisory Committee will have another meeting next week, November 3rd. That is of importance because we are recruiting for a technical advisory committee for our flood infrastructure fund program, which just got kicked off within the last month, subsequent to the last board meeting, by the way. That's all I have for this month. We are waiting a word on a couple of grant applications we put in with the Small Business Administration and a few others, but we won't know that until probably most likely the next board meeting. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Carrera. Then we go to B, Health and Human Services, Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the board, good afternoon. I have only one action item, and that is consideration to approve contractors to a direct purchase services pool. The advisory council is recommending approval to add the contractors to the Area Agency on Aging's contractor pool. Case managers utilize these organizations to purchase services such as residential repair, medications, homemaker, and respite. In your board packet, you have the list of 18 organizations that we are submitting for approval.
Okay. I have a motion to approve.
Second.
And a second. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. And all opposed, sign. Motion carries.
Thank you. And status reports are, are in your screen and they were in your packets. If you have any questions, this is my report.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you.
C is Public Safety, Mr. Randall Snyder.
Good morning, Mr. President, or afternoon, actually. Mr. President, members of the board, got 2 action items. Action item number 1 is to approve the Criminal Justice Advisory Committee's recommended to updates to the bylaws. And the second action item is to approve the CJAC recommendation for membership renewals.
Okay, so we go with 1, consideration action to approve Criminal Justice Advisory Committee's recommendation of updates to bylaws. Can I entertain a motion? I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And 2 is consideration action to approve Criminal Justice Advisory Committee's recommendation on membership renewals. I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And all opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. President. The status reports are attached in your packets and should be available in your packet. And that's all for public safety, pending any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. D in Transportation, Maribel Contreras and Andrew Cannon.
I think Maribel was having technical difficulties. I'll be happy to present. The status reports are in your packet or in the presentation. We had a slight increase in ridership, which is good news. And the other item would be the RGV Metro Express. We're getting ready to reevaluate that service. As you know, we have some partners that contribute to that. It needs to be reevaluated so we can determine whether they're able to continue to contribute for this coming year. As you know, TxDOT is not funding that project anymore. So by this time, we should have been already a self-sustained service. However, due to the pandemic, it kind of impeded our progress. And so it's going to require slightly more funding from the partners. And so if they're not able to commit, we understand, but we will reassess and limit service if we have to. And so we have to entertain any questions on status reports.
Any questions on that? Okay, so there's no action items there.
Mr. Cannon?
Just briefly, Mr. President and Board, my staff will be holding some resiliency meetings. It's a new endeavor for the MPO that we're trying to do on a region-wide planning perspective. We've had one meeting already my staff has been working on, so they'll be looking to try to incorporate and include everyone on that. We're trying to take in everything from flood mitigation to disaster preparedness and sort out who will be the right people to be on this committee that we're trying to form moving forward to come up with a plan. So I just wanted to announce that so that the board was aware of it. So once your staff begins to hear from us, you have a little familiarity with it. Other than that, that's all I have today.
Thank you. And then item 6, new or unfinished business. Do we have anything? Mr. Cruz?
No, but just as a reminder, our next meeting is going to be December 15th. We do not have a November meeting, just as a reminder, but no other new or unfinished business from my end.
Okay. So then we are adjourned. I don't think I need a motion second on adjourning. So we're good. So meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
MPO starts at 1:30.
Thank you. Yes, it started just north of us and decided to stop.
Thank you.